Chapter 3. Focus, Note-Taking. Focus A tables. 1. Filling in tables with choices. 1. Math.
Geometry is the study of points. Now, a point is a small dot, like a period at the end of a sentence. If we have 2 points, we know that there can be other points between them. There can also be a line. The line is continuous. It has no space between each point. Part of a line with points at each end is called a line segment. 2 line segments can be the same length. We call these line segments congruent. That just means the line segments are equal in length.
Two. Biology.
Last week, we learned how most fish use their swim bladder to move around in the water. Remember, when the fish breathes oxygen, some of that oxygen goes into its bladder? This causes the fish to rise in the water. When it squeezes some of the gas out of its bladder, it sinks toward the bottom. So it can move vertically, go up and down, kind of like a hot air balloon. A shark is more like an airplane. Sharks don't have a swim bladder, so they use their forward movement to control their vertical position. The tail is like the shark's propeller. The shark swings it back and forth to move forward. In an airplane, this forward movement pushes air around the wings. For a shark, this forward movement pushes water around the fins. In both cases, the forward movement creates lift. The airplane and shark both rise. Sharks have 2 pairs of fins on each side of their bodies. These fins are in about the same position as the main wings and tail wings on an airplane. The shark can position these fins at different angles. This changes the path of the water around them and enables the shark to move quickly upward or downward. The shark also has 2 vertical fins on its back. These are like the stabilizer fin on an airplane. They allow the shark to keep its balance as it moves through the water and help it turn quickly left and right.
Three. Psychology.
Our mother tongue is the language we learn first from our families. We are native speakers of that language. People who know 2 languages are bilingual. Those people who know 3 or more are trilingual and multilingual. Many people have more than 1 native language. They learn them without going to school. And then there are many people who learn a second language through study. Like me, I only heard English at home. In order to learn Spanish, I had to study hard.
Focus A tables. 2. Completing tables. 1. Literature.
If a play makes you laugh, it's a comedy. Comedies have humorous characters and happy endings. A good example of a comedy is Shakespeare's classic Much Ado About Nothing. Another popular style is called tragedy. Tragedies usually tell how a hero ruins his life, falling from good fortune to bad fortune because of a tragic flaw in character. One example is the play Ghosts by Henrik Ibsen. Modern years have produced a third style called tragicomedy. In tragicomedies, the play seems as though it will end in tragedy, but instead has a humorous or unclear ending. An example is St. Joan by George Bernard Shaw.
Two. Physical science.
Rocks wear down and break apart due to a process called weathering. There are 2 main types of weathering, mechanical and chemical. Mechanical weathering involves the disintegration or destruction of rocks by mechanical processes. These include the freezing and thawing of water in the crevices, holes and cracks of rocks. Also, the roots of plants can cause rocks to break apart. The tiny hair-like roots grow into small cracks in rocks. Then, as the roots get bigger, the roots crack the rocks. Animals are also responsible for mechanical weathering. They burrow or dig into the rocks and the dirt around the rocks. Mechanical weathering is especially common in high altitudes, where it's so cold that freezing and thawing happen every day. It's also common in deserts, where there is little water and few plants. Chemical weathering involves the decomposition of rocks by chemical changes or solution. This includes the processes of oxidation, carbonation, and hydration. For example, many iron minerals found in rocks are rapidly oxidized, meaning they can quickly turn to rust. It sounds funny, but rocks can rust or oxidize. Then there is carbonation. Limestone is a rock that does this. Limestone is a type of rock that is dissolved by water, which contains carbonic acid. We'll go into more detail about the reaction later. Anyway, chemical weathering takes place in warm, wet conditions. In general, chemical weathering is more common than mechanical weathering, although they usually act together.
Three, geography.
We usually think of deserts as hot, dry, sandy places. And many deserts are. But actually, deserts come in several forms. Let's learn about some of them. In defining a desert, we have to consider two factors. The first is the annual amount of rainfall. Deserts get less than 250 millimeters of rain or snow each year. The second factor is how much of that rain or snow evaporates, that is, goes back into the atmosphere or is used up by plants. We call this loss of water evaporation. Simply stated, a desert is a place where evaporation is greater than rainfall or snowfall. Because so much water evaporates, most deserts are hot. But not all. The North and South Poles, for instance, are cold deserts. They get less than 250 millimeters of snow each year, and the ground is permanently frozen. We also classify deserts by their location and main weather pattern. One example is trade wind deserts. Trade wind deserts are located between 30 degrees and 35 degrees north and south of the equator. The winds that blow over these areas are very strong. They blow away clouds, so more sun reaches the ground. Most of the major deserts in the world lie in the areas crossed by the trade winds. The Sahara Desert in North Africa is a trade wind desert. Temperatures there can reach 57 degrees Celsius. Another type of desert is the rain shadow desert. Rain shadow deserts lie next to tall mountains. As clouds rise over the mountains, they spill all of their rain or snow before they get to the other side. So, these deserts are formed in the shadow of the mountains. The Judean Desert in Israel is a rain shadow desert. So is a large part of the western United States, called the Great Basin. Still another kind of desert is the coastal desert. Coastal deserts are on the western edges or coasts of continents. One coastal desert, the Atacama Desert of South America, is Earth's driest desert. In the Atacama, there can be measurable rainfall only once every 50 years.
Focus B. Completing note diagrams. 1. Words. 1. History.
Spain is a country in southwest Europe, south of France, and west of Italy. In the 16th century, it was the most powerful nation in the world. After America was discovered in 1492, Spain sent many people there. They brought back lots of gold and silver. Trade with the new American colonies made Spain rich. It established colonies in other parts of the world, such as Cuba and the Philippines. But in 1588, Spain lost a famous war against England. After that, its power began to decline. In 1898, Spain lost Cuba and the Philippines in the Spanish-American War.
Two, computer science.
More people are buying home computers and using them for home networks. They need faster ways to get information over the Internet. Right now, there are mainly two avenues for information to be sent. These are cable modems and asymmetric digital subscriber lines, or ADSL. These faster ways of sending information are called broadband connections. Cable modems and ADSL are both types of broadband connections. They are much faster than a 56K modem. There is another new kind of DSL connection. It is known as Very High Bit Rate DSL, or VDSL. Some companies already have this for certain places. VDSL isn't everywhere yet, but it may be very soon. Many people like it and are beginning to use it. VDSL accommodates a very, very large amount of bandwidth. It gives up to about 52 megabytes per second. In other words, it provides 52 Mbps. In comparison, ADSL or cable modems can only give 8 to 10 megabytes per second. It's easy to see that VDSL is a lot faster. VDSL will soon be more common, making home networks cost much less.
Three, political science.
The simplest way to define ideology is as a collection of ideas. Every society has an ideology. It forms the basis of the society's public opinion, or common sense. This ideology is usually invisible to most people within the society. It is just normal thinking. Everybody thinks this way. When somebody says or does something different from this normal thought, it is seen as strange, or maybe even dangerous or radical. There are different kinds of ideologies. There's political, social, ethical, and so on. Let's look at political ideologies for a few moments. A political ideology is concerned with two things. 1. How a society should work. And 2. The rules needed to make it work that way.
Focus B. Completing note diagrams. Two phrases. 1. History.
Leonardo da Vinci was not only a great artist, he was also a scientist and inventor. Leonardo was born in 1452 in Vinci, Italy. He began studying painting at age 14 and became famous just a few years later. His best-known paintings are Mona Lisa and The Last Supper. But Leonardo was also an excellent scientist. He kept detailed notebooks of observations about the natural world, and he cut open dead people to learn how the human body works. Finally, he was an inventor. But his two most famous inventions, the parachute and the war tank, weren't built until after he died.
Two, health.
If you have white skin, you're in danger of getting sunburn. The cells in your skin are not protected from the sun's ultraviolet radiation or UV rays. If you don't protect your skin when you go outside, your skin can become red and sore. We call this sunburn. I bet we've all experienced this at some point in our lives. What happens is this: UV rays damage the cells in your skin. The body responds by sending more blood to these cells to repair the damage. This is why your skin is red when you get sunburned, because of this extra blood. The blood begins moving toward the damaged areas 4 hours after you've first been in the sun and will keep moving there as much as 24 hours afterwards. You won't know you're sunburned until it's too late. Sunburn is dangerous because it increases the chance that you will get skin cancer. People who have been sunburned a lot get skin cancer much more often than those who don't get sunburned very much. So, it's very important to protect your skin when you're in the sun.
Three, economics.
The World Bank is a bridge between the rich and poor people. It's making rich country money into poor country growth. It is one of the world's biggest banks for poor countries. It's helping them build schools and health centers and get water and electricity. It's helping protect the people's surroundings. The low-income countries can't usually borrow money in world markets. If they do, they have to pay very high interest rates. The World Bank gives them some money, low-interest loans, and interest-free credit. It helps them take care of the money, too. When the countries get loans, they have 35 to 40 years to pay them back. They can have 10 extra years if they need it. In the year 2002, the bank agreed to give about $15 billion to low-income countries. For some of the poorest countries, AIDS is a very big problem. Some of this World Bank money is to help them fight this disease. If they don't receive help, many more people will get the illness.